The Little Panda Fighter is without a doubt one of the most miserable experiences I have ever witnessed and had to be part of during my whole search of finding terrible, terrible movies, and it's not even close. This movie is miserable. For the first, half of this movie is miserable. Nothing about this movie within the first half is can be looked at as good. It gets it gets better in the second half. However, it is still so mind-numbingly bad that it's I'm not even sure what it's even supposed to be. This movie crosses like a rule. There has to be a rule that prevents movies like this from existing. Like this movie is such a terrible experience. I would never ever recommend this movie to any living organism with a brain on this planet. I would never recommend them this movie. This movie is like God. I'm not. What's a good representation of this movie? Like what's a good comparison? Like this movie, it's like being a parent of like five ungrateful children and having to spend an entire day with them, all of them, without, and also you're a single parent. So that means that everything is shoved right in your face for no reason, and everything, it's so forgettable, and like you're focusing on like so many things. Like this movie is that. Like the characters are some of the most forgettable garbage I've ever seen. Like it's watching this movie made me throw up inside, and it was just such so miserable. I had no fun watching this movie, except well, in the first half I didn't. The second half is where it gets actually hilarious, but we'll get to that. Let's go with the animations. The animations are garbage, garbo, complete doo water. It is one of the most revolting insults to movies I've ever seen, and I've seen some pretty dog shit movies. So saying that this is like, you know, the worst I've ever seen in terms of animation, that's saying a lot. And I've seen some pretty shitty movies. I think the like only movie I would really like have like an argument of like the animations being like worse is Joshua and the Promised Land because I believe that movie will never be topped when it comes to terrible masterpieces of animation. The animation in this movie is so bad, it's actually insulting to society. Like, God, I don't even want to think about it anymore. And this movie is so terrible when it comes to animations. The acting is bad, as you can imagine from any terribly animated movie. The voice acting, it's better than most films. I'll give it that. Most terribly animated films at least. This movie shines in the voice acting, which isn't saying much because the voice acting is also pretty bad at times. But just the plot. The plot in this movie is so it's so weird and so like useless. Like the plot is a panda uh is is like has like a dance class and is trying to like get with this girl who she doesn't even like. In fact, she uses him for his like strength later on. Like she's just a bitch. Like no one likes her except for the panda. But the panda is like, so we can never gonna get her. So he wants to get the girl, but he's not like into violence. He doesn't like violence. He doesn't like fighting. So instead of, say of like, talking to her or like try or like going on with his life, he instead goes to his boss about the undefeated champion of the place he works at and the fact that no one and the fact that business has been slow. And he's like, and he gets an idea. He's like, hey, I think the I think the polar bear's name, the boss's name is Polaris. I really have no clue, but Polaris and Panda Pandacan. I don't know this movie. These characters are so non-memorable. Sorry, but I'm moving on. So after a few shitty movie acting um and voice acting amazing moments, um we get to a point in time where the polar bear, the boss is like, Okay, I'm sad because if I get into another fight, I mean, I could kick the undefeated guy's ass. I could kick his asshole in, I could shred it, I could stick my dick in there and wave it around and vibrate it like it's a fucking massage toy. I could do that. But if I do that, I lose my job and I lose my house, I lose everything. My life will be ruined. I'll be economically ruined for the rest of my days if I don't do it. So he asks, the panda if he wants to commit a felony with him, and he does, and he ends up doing it, and you know, in the end, that polar bear goes against the undefeated champion, and the polar bear wins easily. It's not even close. The battle is not even fun watching because it wasn't even a close fight. And after after the fighting, um, the disguise that the polar bear was wearing, so no one would know it was the owner actually fighting. It looked nothing like the panda. However, people still thought it was the panda for some reason. Um, People thought it was the panda, and then the girl liked him finally because the girl loves violence and the girl loves hunky, weird muscle dudes who are black and white. So it's kind of like, interessante. But moving on, then this panda is like, oh my god, this girl loves me and I love her back and she kissed me, but master fucking who that yeah that's the master by the way, the guy with the red headband, the green headband. Um, Master fucking, I'll call him Uguay from now on. Oh, my Master Uguay, I love her and she tells me, but I don't like fighting. I like dancing. Dancing is cool and dancing is fun. And Master Uguay's like, shut the fuck up, you stupid bear. Just tell you how you feel. And he's like, no. And then he's like, you better do it, you fucking bitch, or else you suck. And he's like, okay. So, um, he goes to the polar bear, the boss, who just kicked the shit out of that undefeated champion. And the undefeated champion wants a rematch for some reason because apparently, getting his ass shoved into his face wasn't enough. So, the panda was like, you know what? I'm gonna fight this man. I'm gonna win. It's gonna be easy. And then the polar bear is like, are you sure? And the panda's like, yes, I'm gonna do it. And then all of a sudden, it's turned into a weird thing where the polar bear wants the panda to lose so he could run away with money. It's such a weird movie. The movie at some points makes zero sense, has no transition, and it's not even like it's a good movie either. Like this movie ripped off one of the most famous movies in the world, and like I have a feeling that the people who made this movie didn't even try. Like the voice acting, yes. The animations, uh, okay, well, I can try. I can tell they put effort into this thing. It, there's no way animation can be that bad without like effort. So yeah, just want to say the plot is bad. The animation is incredibly bad. Um, this movie is just bad. It's awful. It's so bad. But like, then we go to the second half of the movie, and the second half of the movie is where it really shines because everything, it's hilarious there. The second half of the movie is actually hilarious. Like this is a 50-minute movie, and I loved the last 25 minutes of this shitty movie. This terrible, disgusting movie was like so bad in the second half that it was good. Like it was so bad that this movie actually turned like into like a fucking solid like hilarious like movie and not and oh yeah and don't mistake me for saying that this movie is good. This movie is not good. I want to make that clear. This movie sucks, and it should stay that way. This movie sucks, and no one likes this movie. This movie probably gave like every single person who watched this. They probably gave every single person who watched this some form of cancer. Like I swear to God, this movie is probably responsible for coronavirus. This movie, I wouldn't be surprised, was responsible for like the uh, September 11th attacks on the U.S. Like this is so bad. It's such a bad movie. And I'm not even I'm not I haven't even like gone to the characters yet, man. The characters are so forgettable. We have Panda Can or Panda whatever, and there's Polaris. I'm not even sure what his name is. Those are two characters I remembered from that entire movie. And I watched this movie with full focus during Spanish class, and it was not a good experience. It was so bad. Like I don't even remember the names. I don't even remember the name of the main character. God damn it, I'm such a failure. Like, I don't even know. But, this movie sucks. Um, I feel like I'm just saying this movie sucks like every single 2 seconds, but I just want people to know this movie is so bad. Like, God, it's cringing at like everything this movie has presented because nothing in this movie is even remotely good. Like, oh God, this movie is so bad that's actually hilarious how bad it is, and that's why like this movie is gonna get like a score that's more than zero because like if you know this movie, this movie, this movie like genuinely made me laugh. Like just because of how bad it was. This movie is phenomenally bad, and I want the whole world to know how bad it is. Um, you know, plugging this shit into my rating, uh, I will give this movie a solid, I want to say, no, it's better than Little Line. It's better than Little Line. I just feel like it's better than Little Line because like just because it's so bad that it's good. Like some points to dialogue is actually decent, and um, you know, that's what really pushes over the edge of really the line. This movie is so bad that it's good and also has good dialogue. Or sometimes has good dialogue. Sometimes it has cringy moments like that. See where the panda's dancing for no reason while while having a washing machine run. And this it's so random because there isn't even music. Like there's background music, yeah, but like there's no music that he's listening to. Literally none. Like I'm not even sure where this movie was going. Like okay, you know what? I changed my mind. This movie is not as good as Little Line. Little Line is such, it's slightly better than this movie. I'm giving this movie a 9% because it's only slightly worse than Little Line. And I gave Little Line a 10%. So this movie getting a nice little 9%. This movie is it's worse than Little Line. So much worse. And it's so much worse, but at the same time it's not as worse. It's not so much worse. Like honestly, this movie is such a terrible, terrible, terrible movie. God, I can't say this movie is terrible enough. Like, oh God, I felt miserable. I was depressed. I think this movie gave me like suicidal thoughts. Like, thanks to this movie, I have to go seek therapy from like 15 other therapists, and I had to waste my money paying for every single therapist because of this movie and how this movie gave me depression. Like, how did this movie even get like, yeah, I don't even know how this movie even get like solidified as a movie. Like, look at the characters. Like, God, they're so bad. That fucking degenerate right there has a snot coming out of his nose all the time. Like, it's so disgusting. But anyway, that concludes my review of this terrible movie. Actually, you know what? One more thing before I go. Um, Something I want to point out in this movie is the fact that the movements of the animation, like how the animators move. Sometimes it's the most funny shit you'll ever see. Sometimes it's so boring that it's like mind-numbingly boring. Like it like you like sleep and you daydream of how boring it is. That's how boring it is. It's so boring that you go to sleep and then after going to sleep you will daydream that exact scene in your head and you'll see how boring it is and then you'll daydream in that daydream and it'll be a continuous cycle of daydreaming in a daydream of a daydream of this shitty scene. Like it's so bad. But yeah, I think if I'm not, I think I'm done. Uh, yeah, this video can only be so long, and it's been like 13 minutes already, so 14 minutes now. So yeah, um, yeah, this movie terrible, 9%, such a bad movie. Yeah, goodbye.